They're here, but we can only speculate on where they come from.
I've been taken 4 times that I know of.
I know they're here because I've seen UFOs twice. I just don't know what they're doing here.
It would take decades for them to get here. Who would undertake such a journey to visit us? I just can't see ETs being that interested in us.
UFOs. Extraterrestrials. Alien abductions. These phenomena are gaining more and more public interest as more and more documentaries are made about the subject. But the documentaries raise numerous questions that we can't answer. Where do they come from? Why are they here? What possible interest could they have in our unremarkable little planet? Why do they abduct and perform experiments on humans? And how do they traverse the vast distances of space without aging or dying? These are just a few of the questions raised by the UFO phenomenon. Up till now, we could only speculate on the answers. But humans speculating on answers only extraterrestrials know isn't very satisfying. What if we could talk to an extraterrestrial? What if we could ask him these questions directly? In this program, we're going to do just that. Of course, space aliens haven't yet agreed to land for an interview, so we'll have to use alternate means.
All right, we will say good day to you, this day of your time, as you know time to exist.
Channeling has been recognized as a viable means of communicating with non-physical beings through a telepathic connection made by a human channel. For our purposes, Darryl Anka channels a being we call Bashar. Bashar describes himself as a physical, spacefaring extraterrestrial.
Thank you. We do present ourselves as a member of an extraterrestrial society that in our ancient language are called Sathani, which means living light. Our world is a variation of this ancient term, Sathani, place of living light. And our physiological existence and appearance is such that you would view me as about 5 feet of your height, whitish gray skin coloration, no hair on the males, hair on most females tends to be white, can be sometimes a variation thereof. My eyes are larger than human. We are what you would classify in UFO literature as a hybrid being composed of Earth-human genetic stock and genetic stock of those beings you have referred to as gray. Our world is not unlike the Earth in many ways. It is also the 3rd planet from its central star, which we in our language call Shah, which has a slightly hotter spectrum, slightly toward the greenish hue. Our world does not have the same kind of seasons that your world does. Our axis tilt is not as great. It is generally averaging what you would recognize as humans as a comfortable year-round temperature. There is more water on our planet, slightly higher oxygen content. You would find, perhaps at first, if you were to visit our world, yourselves being perhaps a little bit dizzy for a while until you acclimated. Our world is slightly smaller, gravity slightly less, but you could acclimatize to this very easily. We communicate with many worlds in this manner. We have found over the course of our experience that in many ways it is beneficial to use biological receivers, biological communicators, what you call mediums or channels, who are sensitive to other frequencies, rather than using technological communication for a variety of reasons.
Let me pose one of the most common questions raised by people studying the extraterrestrial phenomenon. Are extraterrestrials really visiting Earth? And if so, why? What do they want? What do you want? Do you visit our planet?
The short answer is yes. There are many different cultures observing and visiting your world. However, most of those cultures, the vast majority, have what you would refer to as a kind of hands-off policy, a non-interference directive, so as not to intervene in the overall development of humanity, charting its own course, making its own decisions. We will, however, watch and observe very closely. We will sometimes, depending upon the reasons, depending upon what kind of agreements have been created and how it will serve the greater good, sometimes have short, small, isolated interactions with people on your planet in a variety of places and times.
For viewers new to the channeling phenomenon, and especially for skeptics of this phenomenon, we recognize that this means of obtaining answers to these questions is speculative. But if there's any validity to it, then these answers are more useful than any speculation by humans. Let's see what Bashar has to say about this. We know that many people, especially some scientists, are skeptical of the channeling phenomenon. So the question is, why should we believe you are who you say you are? And how do we know the channel isn't just putting on a very convincing show?
You do not have to believe we are who we say we are. That isn't the point. This is not being done by any means to prove our existence. So, you do not have to believe anything. As far as you are concerned, this could all be happening in another level, another aspect of the channel's own consciousness. That said, the other point is that regardless of what someone may choose to believe is behind the channeling phenomenon, as you say, the channeling state itself is a real state of consciousness. This has even been, as you would say, scientifically tested on your own planet. It is understood that the channeling state is an altered state of consciousness in which the brain waves and the activity neurologically in the body in a variety of ways is changed to accommodate different kinds of energy flow, different kinds of neurological activity to support the state, to allow what happens in that state to happen. And in this case, the channeling state is being used to access different points of view, different perspectives. Now, whether or not you wish to believe that I personally am an extraterrestrial being speaking through a human being is not the point. And we would never assume to suppose that you should believe that just because we say so. Again, the information is what's important, and if you find that the information that is accessed in this state by whatever means, whether it be another being, another entity, or simply a portion, an untapped portion of the consciousness of the channel, if that information works in your life, if it creates an effect that is desired in your life when applied, then that's the point of delivering the information, no matter from where or from whom it may come.
Obviously, even Bashar recognizes the speculative nature of channeling for us, and is honest about it. Even so, the phenomenon merits closer examination.
My understanding is that I'm getting my brain to go into a different state of frequency that's somewhat closer to the frequency that Bashar exists on, and he's changing his state of being to be somewhat closer to mine, so that we meet somewhere in the middle, and then those frequencies lock. And when they lock, what's happening is then you're getting a translation of his thoughts out of the words that I understand. It's like he's not speaking English or anything. He's just sending thoughts, and those thoughts are translated through my brain into the vocabulary that I was raised to understand, which in this case is English. The whole channeling thing came about as a side effect of an investigation into UFO phenomenology, because about 32 years ago I had two different broad daylight UFO sightings at close range here over Los Angeles, with witnesses present with me both times. And having those sightings of this triangular UFO started me on the path of investigating, well, now that I've seen a UFO, what's that all about? They're obviously real. What's behind that?
Even at the speed of light, it would take 4 years to get here from the nearest star, but that would be impossible because reaching the speed of light would take an infinite amount of energy. Realistically, maybe they could reach 10 to 20% of the speed of light, but at that speed it would take decades for them to get here. Who would undertake such a journey to visit us? I just can't see ETs being that interested in us.
One of the arguments that skeptics use to dismiss the prospect of extraterrestrial visitation to Earth is the fact that our science doesn't make room for the possibility of traveling the vast distances of space in short periods of time. Our scientists calculate that it would take decades, if not centuries, to travel between the stars, and therefore no extraterrestrial civilization would ever undertake such a laborious trip.
Yes.
So if extraterrestrials are visiting Earth,
yes,
how do they do it without aging or dying over a long period of time during the voyage?
Yes, it is true that while you are in the physical universe that you recognize, you cannot travel faster than what you call the speed of light, generally speaking. However, traveling faster than the speed of light is not required for going from star to star relatively quickly. If you can understand the universe as a set of coordinate vibrations, as a set of resonant frequency patterns, then you will understand that everything in the universe, everything you call a place, a person, or a thing, or even a time, is represented by a signature frequency. In understanding that everything has its own signature, even collectives of things have signatures similar to the idea of chords of music as opposed to single notes. When you can identify what the chord vibration is of a collective of things, such as a spacecraft and its occupants, when you can take a reading of that vibration, when you can stimulate it to give off its frequency, to reveal its frequency through a variety of energy inputs, then get the readings of what that frequency is, you can then make adjustments in that frequency to represent the idea of a different location, a different coordinate in space-time. By then reversing the process and imposing upon the craft and its occupants a frequency that, for lack of a better term, overwhelms the frequency that was there before, then you can cause the craft, in a sense, to dissociate from its previous location. It no longer identifies with that locational signature, and it starts identifying with the second locational signature. As soon as it is identified with the second locational signature, it will suddenly exist in that second location because it can no longer exist in the first, since it no longer identifies with that frequency. Now, the way we impose this second frequency upon the craft and the way we dissociate the craft from the first frequency is by creating a kind of neutral field of energy, an amplified bubble, if you will, of electromagnetic energy that you in your language might refer to as a force field, that in some senses has its own reality to it. It's like a neutral zone of existence, cuts off the craft, in a sense, from its old frequency and allows a new frequency to be imposed or instated so that when the field is then removed, the craft identifies only with the new frequency. The field is given the new frequency, shifted in tone, so to speak. Which is why sometimes, even though for the most part many of our craft are relatively silent, some individuals have actually reported on your planet hearing, when they have a spacecraft encounter, a kind of modulated tone, either rising or lowering in pitch, or a series of chords that emanate from the craft. These tones are not a side effect of the craft's movements. They are the cause, in a sense, of the craft's movements, because they are representative of the different frequencies being imposed upon the craft's field to allow it to take up place at different locations and times in the space-time coordinate continuum. Does this make some sense to you?
Yes, it does. Another argument against the notion of extraterrestrial visitation to this planet is the dismay that extraterrestrials, whom we presume to be technologically advanced, would be interested in a little mudball of a planet like Earth, or in a civilization such as ours, which is technologically and sociologically challenged, for lack of a better word. So why would you even bother with us?
Well, first of all, those so-called limitations and challenges are what make your civilization so interesting and so exciting. Anytime a civilization goes through the great challenges that you have imposed upon your civilization in this day and age on your planet, it is worth watching. It is worth learning from. However, the idea also is to understand that we are connected to the universe in a very different way than you are. And to us, you are not isolated. We pick up on consciousness itself and can home in on it very easily. You radiate consciousness throughout creation. In that sense, the kind of experiences you are creating on your planet shine like a beacon, and it is hard to miss. So we pick up on that, respond to it as if it is an invitation given off, and if it is something that we find interesting, you will find then that a lot of beings will gravitate toward that scenario to see what is going on, to learn what it is you are going through, to aid and assist if possible, but also to take that information, that observation, and see how you, as a unique species and unique civilization and several unique cultures, deal with issues that other beings and other civilizations also deal with, but to learn the way in which you uniquely deal with it is also of assistance to other worlds as well. And your willingness as spirits and as beings to participate in the experience you are having of physical reality is actually a show of strength. Strength of spirit to face the deep challenges that you do. And others are learning from that. So you are giving us a great gift.
Whether or not you believe that channeling represents a genuine connection to alternate planes of existence, or that Bashar is an extraterrestrial, you have to admit that his answers are intriguing, and certainly better than anything we humans have been able to come up with. At the very least, they give us abundant food for thought. I'm Ken Gullickson. Thank you for joining us.